On third and final day of his India visit today, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. India and Iran likely to finalize details about operationalization of the strategically important Chabahar port, ease trade and investments between the two countries. India is developing the Chabahar port on Iran's east coast as a way to gain access to markets in Central Asia as well as Afghanistan by passing arch-rival Pakistan. And what you can see right now are live visuals coming in from Rashtrapati Bhavan right now. This is the Guard of Honor being conducted currently for Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Now, quickly, let's cut across to our senior correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran, who will share details of Rouhani's visit to India. Ramesh, we can see that, the Guard of Honor is currently on at Rashtrapati Bhavan. What are the prime aspects that that the President and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be focusing on today?
Morning, Akanksha. So, as you mentioned, the visuals on your screens are that of the ceremonial reception in honor of the visiting President of Iran, Hassan Rouhani. He will be accorded a ceremonial reception in the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan, and later he'll have an opportunity to meet with India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj, followed by bilateral talks with Prime Minister Modi. On the agenda, as you mentioned, would be a host of issues, including bilateral, regional and global issues of interest and concern alike to both Iran and India, including but not limited to connectivity. The Chabahar port, for instance, India attaches great importance to development of the port, which, as you mentioned, will give India access to the landlocked Afghanistan and beyond, insofar as getting access to the markets that are concerned.
Right.
Also,
Ramesh, sorry I'm interjecting you there, but Chabahar port is right now very, very integral to India and Iran ties. So please elaborate for our viewers on Chabahar's importance.
Well, Chabahar is located in the southeastern coast of Iran in close proximity to the Gwadar port in neighboring Pakistan, which has been leased to a Chinese state-owned company for 40 plus years. Now, India sees or views the Gwadar port with suspicion because India sees it as a ploy or a strategy on the part of China to encircle India by having military bases in India's immediate neighborhood. And therefore, from that perspective, Chabahar gains importance, enormous importance from India's security point of view. Now, that said, Chabahar is also important for connectivity purposes. As you mentioned, it will give India access to the landlocked Afghanistan markets in Central Asia and beyond. So, every which way you look at it, Chabahar gains a strategic importance from India's perspective.
Right, absolutely agree with you that Chabahar is very important, and we will stay with you, Ramesh, on this story. But for now, let's quickly cut across to the visuals also. Let's take a look, since President Rouhani is all set to arrive, and the Prime Minister and President Kovind are all set to receive him as the Guard of Honor is currently being conducted in Rashtrapati Bhavan. As you can see, President Kovind has already received the Iranian President at the Guard of Honor, which is currently underway at the Rashtrapati Bhavan in Delhi. What you can see are live visuals of the Iranian President Rouhani arriving at the Rashtrapati Bhavan.
Sir, I know I cannot use it. No.
तीन दिवसीय दौरे पर है यात्रा।
These are live visuals of President Rouhani at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, as you can all see, and today is of course a very, very important day for India and Iran ties. Let me also tell our viewers of President Rouhani's itinerary for the day. At 9:30 a.m. the wreath laying is expected to take place at Gandhi Samadhi, whereas at 10:15 a.m. a call by Indian External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj to take place, and at noon meeting with PM Modi at Hyderabad House, while at 1:30 p.m. exchange agreements and postal stamp releases, followed by participation in Observer Research Foundation lecture at 4 p.m. and at 5:30 p.m. call by Vice President Venkaiah Naidu. At 6:45 p.m. Indian Parsi community event to take place. And now let's quickly cut across to our senior correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran, who will break down this visit for us. Ramesh, we are seeing these live visuals of President Hassan Rouhani arriving at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Quite a grand guard of honor being conducted for the president.
Indeed, this is the third visit to India by our head of government of Iran in the last 15 years. Remember, Prime Minister Modi visited Iran in 2016, and in 2008, the then President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad visited India. And before that, Mohammad Khatami was the chief guest at India's Republic Day celebrations in 2003. So this is the third high-level visit from Iran to India in the last 15 years. And when Prime Minister Modi travelled to Tehran in 2016, India signed a trilateral pact with Iran, Afghanistan and India on the transit cooperation, including on the Chabahar port, where India has agreed to commit $500 million going forward. In the first installment, it has already lent $85 billion for development of phase 1 of the Chabahar port. So connectivity, energy security, all issues will be on the table when the two leaders meet in New Delhi later today.
Right. Ramesh, do we finally say that Rouhani's visit seals India's relationship with West Asia, taking into consideration that PM Modi just wrapped his 3-day tour to Palestine, UAE and Oman?
Indeed, this is a good example of India wanting to pursue independent ties with all countries in the Arab world and the Persian Gulf. Remember, Prime Minister Modi has travelled extensively in West Asia over the last 4 years. He has travelled to Saudi Arabia, he has travelled to Iran, Israel, Palestine. He's also travelled to the UAE and Qatar. So he's in extensive travel across West Asia, meaning thereby that India wants to put neighbourhood first policy in action, which he calls it at the Link West policy. And he's travelled to all countries in the region and also hosted many of the leaders here in Delhi. So India wants to pursue ties with all countries in the region and further its interest in West Asia.
Right, Ramesh, can India insulate its strategic investments in Iran from fluctuations in American policies towards the country?
Yeah, that is a very crucial question from India's perspective, Akanksha, because given the rhetoric from Washington with President Trump threatening to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal and impose more sanctions on Iran, the challenge before India and Iran is to insulate their ties, their investments from fluctuations in American policies going forward. Now, one way out that both countries are talking about is to invest and do trade in their local currencies. In other words,
good morning, sir. So what are expectations from this visit to India, sir?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. اگر ما در این سفر بتونیم به نقطه‌ای برسیم که اجداد ما در ایران و هندوستان با هم بهترین روابط رو داشتند، اگر ما بتونیم به اون روز برسیم کار بزرگی کردیم.
If we are able to reach the great day that our fathers in Iran and Hindustan, they had the best of relations, I believe we have done the best.
So, Ramesh, there you go. We just heard President Rouhani, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani actually address, and this was his message for the country. And as we can all see in these live visuals, he's being accompanied by PM Narendra Modi. Carry forward, add more perspective to his visit.
well, President Rouhani, Akanksha, is accompanied by a high-level delegation comprising senior ministers in his cabinet, including those holding portfolios of foreign affairs, transport, energy, and so on. So it is a packed, eventful visit, especially in terms of energy security, connectivity, strategic ties, and most importantly, people-to-people ties and trade and investment. So all the issues will be on the table when two leaders meet here in New Delhi in just a few hours from now. But that said, we've seen in the recent past that India has sought to develop more ties, stronger ties with Iran, in spite of the West Asian, the differences between Iran on the one hand and Israel and other countries on the other hand. But India seems to indicate that by hosting President Rouhani of Iran, India is signaling its intent to pursue independent ties with all countries of consequence in West Asia and the Persian Gulf. And this is a good example of just that. But that said, President Rouhani will also be looking to attract Indian investments in Iran, especially in the fields of oil and gas. Remember, India is interested in working on the Farzad B oil field in Iran. Now, that's an issue which is still under consideration and still under discussion. And the expectation in India is that towards the end of President Rouhani's visit here, they will come to some sort of agreement on the way forward in India, be able to develop and build on that investments in the Farzad B oil field.
All right, Ramesh, thank you so much for bringing us all those updates and breaking down this integral visit of President Hassan Rouhani from Iran.